Matt Leon joins us from the city of brotherly love, where they are loving life these days in sports. Welcome, sir.
Good to be with you.
Tonight, Game 3. Your thoughts on what you saw in the first two games?
Phillies did what they needed to do. It would have been nice after you grabbed Game 1 kind of in an improbable fashion to really put the screws to the Astros and win Game 2, but bats went cold. Actually had some opportunities late in the game, just couldn't quite get that hit that would really kind of turn things around. It's amazing. I think if you would have told people the combined pitching lines of Nola and Wheeler in the first two games and then told them, and you're going to come out 1-1, I think everybody'd be thrilled for that, because you kind of leaned on the idea that, well, you'll get great outings from Nola and Wheeler, and that should be enough. And the fact that you were able to win one with neither guy being sharp, I would think the chances of them not being sharp second time around are pretty slim. So you got to feel pretty good about that. But I think you did what you needed to do. You won one. You kind of punctured the cloud of invulnerability that surrounded the Astros, and now it's a best-of-5 sprint to the finish.
All right, so how's the pitching now line up for them?
It'll be Syndergaard tonight, and that's assuming tonight because there's rain in the forecast. And I actually just saw something that they're going to have a meeting this afternoon with both teams to kind of look at the forecasts and see whether they should start, if they're going to be able to play through it, stuff like that. But if weather aside, you've got Syndergaard tonight, and then Ranger Suarez would go in Game 4, who got big outs in Game 1 out of the bullpen. So I think Syndergaard, you're kind of hoping maybe once through the lineup, and then it becomes basically a bullpen game. And with Suarez, even with him pitching the other day, I don't know that would have a big effect. He's a guy I think you could comfortably hope to expect 5 or 6 innings out of. And then we'll see. I mean, it's a definite drop-off from Nola and Wheeler, but I'm a big Ranger Suarez guy.
No, I am
He
too.
is actually the type of guy I would want in a must-win situation. And I think Syndergaard's a veteran and kind of knows his role, knows what's expected of him. But he'll be facing a phenomenal lineup, but he will also be, pitching in front of 48,000 Phillies fans who are going to be going bonkers, and it's Halloween, so who knows?
True. It is true. They'll be wild tonight. If there's one element that would worry me, if just a bit, if I'm a Phillies pitcher right now, is Altuve finally broke out of it in Game 2. Because he had been in a long, prolonged slump, and so...
it's a legitimate concern. And that Astros lineup, everybody that comes up, you go, oh wow, oh God, I forgot about this guy. Wow, it's one of those lineups.
But you know what? I feel that way about the Phillies lineup. I think every time you turn around, especially now with the DH, like, holy mackerel, now I got to deal with him. Yeah.
So, for the most part, a lot of times, I think we've talked about these series come down to one 50-50 umpire call, or one middle reliever out of the bullpen who has to get leaned on and ends up throwing 6 shutout innings over 3. Things that you can't sit here and calculate. End up really tilting things one direction or another. I think the crowd will absolutely be a factor. I think Philadelphia baseball in South Philadelphia in the postseason is not something that most baseball fans of this generation can anticipate, can simulate. I think it can be jarring for other teams. But it's a Houston team that's been through the wars. This is not a group that you're going to catch flat-footed because they're new to the postseason. But I think it will be a check on the Phillies list of things, and we shall see. We shall see.
It is also a Houston team that has some guys that have won it, but have also tasted the other side more often than not in series like these when they get to this point. So, I mean, that's, well, look at all the experience they have. Well, some of it's not all good.
Right, and I think that's where kind of winning game one comes in. That,
right.
You know, they just kind of been cruising along, and I know they had the dramatic win in the first game against Seattle, but for the most part, they had, you know, been doing their thing, and, you know, game one was really the first time they'd gotten punched in the mouth. And, you know, they bounced back to their credit and won game two. But I think just losing that game early, it kind of levels things off where, like, the aura surrounding one team is kind of shattered. And now it's just, okay, let's just play some baseball.
Exactly. Eagles yesterday did the expected. Really, they won that game with relative ease. Brown was fabulous. What did you see?
He's just so much fun to watch. I mean, obviously the balls Hurts was throwing at him, but, I mean, he's the best receiver they've had since Terrell Owens. And he reminds me a lot of Owens in that he is just so strong and so big that he's very difficult to go down. And this doesn't necessarily on the touchdowns he had, which were deep balls. But the thing that just really impresses me watching him this season is just like on crossing patterns and things like that, where he gets the ball with some momentum and the way he's able to throw defenders off. But this was really, you know, his breakout game. And I think you said it, like, they did what they were expected to do. There was no,
right.
You know, 6-0, you figure, well, they're going to lay an egg eventually. And, you know, Steelers, it's cross state, but Pittsburgh's not very good, so maybe they're not juiced and maybe a little flat coming out of the bye and all that. And nope, they just kind of disregarded them. You know, they put the starters are out, 10 minutes left in the game?
Yeah.
Like, they were, and with playing on Thursday this week, that's maybe it's not huge, but that's a nice positive. You were able to get some guys off their feet basically for the entire fourth quarter when you've got a game in 3 days. So, you know, the defense, the pass rush was more consistent. I mean, I say that like they've got 23 sacks this year, but I feel like if there's kind of the pass rush can disappear for gaps of time. I thought it was much more consistent. Obviously, the Robert Quinn, who they just acquired, they were able to work him in. I think I saw he got 20 snaps. They caused a couple turnovers. I mean, they're real. I still think with a lot of Eagles fans, it's hard to kind of sink in like how good they are. Like that this team really doesn't have a weakness per se. There are things maybe they don't do as consistently as you'd like, and maybe the special teams can be a little shaky. You know, that's the second time they've gotten beaten by a fake punt in the last couple of years. Not beaten, but, you know, the other team was able to capitalize on a fake punt. So there are things to clean up, but you really look at this, you know, top to bottom, and it's hard to say, like, oh, well, this is what will cost them, and this is what won't be able to come through in a big game. This is what will be shown up. It's really tough, and the level of football Hurts is playing right now is second to none.
They're playing great. The issue is, like, there's no defining win. There's no defining moment. There's no team that is considered the upper echelon. You can only play who you play. That's why I think there's just that, like, okay, they're great, but I'd like to see how great. And that's I agree with you, like that, and that it's. But I'll say to you, like, and I didn't even realize this. Minnesota's 6-1. Oh, no,
Who's the one?
I said that to you last week. I said I said that to you last week that they're 6. They were 5-1 when I said it, but
yeah, like and they got. I think because the Eagles dispatched them so easily, and it was early on, like the narrative that Minnesota wasn't very good was kind of set in stone because.
Right.
And I frankly, I was surprised when I looked up and saw, oh, wait a minute, that's the only loss they have?
Right.
You know, Dallas is 6-2. They lost the opener. Who else got them? Eagles. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's to your point, you know, you only play who you play, but
right.
I think a couple of the wins are better than are given credit for. And I think the Minnesota one, you know, because it's funny. It's like one of those, you know, in political circles when they say, oh, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Well, I did. Oh, but not like that. Like, you know, you need to beat a good team. Well, Minnesota's 6-1. Yeah, well, that doesn't count. Like, you know.
Right. No, I know. I know. And I understand that completely. I did bring it up last week, though, that Minnesota was, when I said it was 5-1 at the time.
I mean, basically, when people say that you haven't beaten anyone, what they're saying is you haven't played the Bills or the Chiefs, which is fair, but there's nothing you can do about that. But I think at this point, I think the Eagles and 49ers are clearly the two best rosters in the NFC, and we'll see how it plays out.
I always ask you about Penn. The slow start really cost them last week because in the second half they came on, especially in the third quarter of that game.
Yeah, it got down 24-7 at the half. As Brown can move the football, Brown's problem has been they always make big mistakes. And that's usually the difference, and they didn't make big mistakes. They did not turn the football over. They were also very sharp just throwing the football. But to your point, Penn was down 24-7, actually took the lead 31-27. Then Brown went down, got a late touchdown, and that ended up being the difference. Heck of a game. Terrible bus ride to Providence. But, try to bounce back this week against Cornell.
You must have hit every ounce of traffic on the face of the earth.
Oh God! Don't even get me started on the things you got to go through on these bus rides.
It's one thing people don't realize. It's not just New York City. It's once you get even through New York City, when you've got to go through Stamford, Norwalk, Bridgeport, and New Haven, the slowdowns are remarkable.
Yep, throughout Connecticut, and for no reason. It is not because of an accident. It's not because of a construction. It's just because it's Wednesday or it's Friday. Like, it's just, it's a lot.
I never forget. Now, this isn't Providence, but I did a basketball game. Penn State played Duke at Mohegan Sun, and the game was at 12:30 in the afternoon. Boom, game's over. I've got a football game at 8 o'clock that night at Rutgers. So had a car, and Jeff Nelson was with me. And, I get out of the Mohegan Sun at 3. And, I'm going along, Lime, Saybrook, no problem, bang, 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 bang. And then, of course, for no apparent reason, I think when we got to Norwalk, everything just stops. And Jeff had everything on Google Maps and the whole thing. Now, as somebody who grew up in Connecticut, I took a couple of liberties as to which roads I used to get there. So local knowledge helped, and then I got there on time because I was able to cut over, get to the Merritt Parkway, then swing over and go down the Hutch and the whole thing. Okay, that didn't hurt, but I feel for you, brother. That's awful.
The things we do for the people, let me tell you.
For the people, for you, all of you out there. My friend, thanks so much. Bye week for you, right? Then Columbia, right? Is it a bye week?
For Penn?
Yeah, or they have a game.
They're at Cornell.
You're at Cornell. Then it's Columbia at home.
No, then it's Harvard at home. Then
Harvard, okay.
Season finale against Princeton.
Still got a shot at the whole thing, right?
Absolutely. As long as you got one loss going into that last game, when you're playing the team that likely is going to have no losses, you still got a shot. But
that's your
no margin for error now.
Right. That's your tiebreaker.
Right.
Right. Got it. All right. They'll probably, Penn will beat Princeton. They'll give both teams a trophy. Yay.
Probably.
Yay. All right. Thanks, my friend.
Always a pleasure.